The sound of silk ripping echoed like thunder. Every conversation in the glittering ballroom froze. Aaliyah stood there, breath caught, eyes wide, as the sleeve of her emerald green gown hung in Madison Hale's hand. The arrogant woman gasped dramatically, pretending to be the victim. "Oh my God, you people should really be more careful while serving." The words "you people" sliced deeper than the torn fabric. Aaliyah blinked hard. Serving? She wasn't even holding a tray. She'd been standing by her husband's side a moment ago, talking to guests. Gasps whispered across the tables. Someone's champagne flute clinked nervously. Madison smirked. "Don't just stand there, sweetheart. Get me another glass of wine. And tell your manager I'll be leaving a complaint." Aaliyah's throat tightened. For a split second, she thought about walking away, pretending it didn't matter. But humiliation burned hotter than shame. Her voice came out low, trembling but firm. "Ma'am, I think you've made a mistake." Madison crossed her arms. "Oh, I don't think so. I know what waitstaff look like. You people have a certain look." Aaliyah's pulse roared in her ears. Behind her, Jordan froze mid-step, tray in hand, eyes wide with anger. Then Aaliyah turned slightly toward the camera, the narration soft but powerful. "If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments. Have you ever been judged before people even knew your story? Hit that like button if you believe no one deserves to be treated like they're less, no matter what they look like." The crowd was silent, except for the faint hum of jazz playing, awkwardly through the speakers. Then, from the far end of the room, a familiar voice. Low, calm, dangerous. "Madison," Ethan said, stepping forward. His tone made her spine stiffen. "Do you know who you just touched?" Madison turned, annoyed. "And who might you be?" He smiled, slow and cold. "The husband of the woman whose dress you just tore." The color drained from Madison's face. Gasps filled the air again, louder this time. Cameras flashed. Aaliyah didn't move. She could still feel the rip in her gown, the weight of every stare pressing down on her. But this wasn't the beginning of the humiliation. No. This had been building for weeks. Weeks of whispers. Of being mistaken. Of being the help even in her own restaurant. And this public humiliation was the breaking point. As Ethan took a step closer, his voice low enough for only Aaliyah to hear, he said, "Let me handle this." But Aaliyah wasn't sure she wanted him to. 6 months earlier, the golden morning light poured through the glass windows of Maison Brook, one of Atlanta's newest fine dining restaurants. Polished marble floors, chandeliers like raindrops, and a scent of fresh rosemary filled the air. Aaliyah adjusted her blazer and exhaled, smiling proudly. This was her dream. Her name, carved on the front door beside her husband's, but the dream came with cracks only she could see. "Excuse me, miss," a man in a designer suit said that morning, waving his hand impatiently. "Table for 2, and hurry, please." She turned toward him, professional and calm. "Of course, sir. Do you have a reservation?" The man sighed. "Aren't you the hostess?" "I spoke with the owner last week, Ethan Brooks." Aaliyah's smile didn't fade, though something behind it flickered. "Ethan is my husband," she said softly. "We own this place together." The man blinked. Confusion, then awkward silence. Oh, you're... I didn't realize." She'd heard that line too many times. Didn't realize what? That a black woman could own this? She walked him to his table anyway, graceful, unbothered on the outside. But her chest felt heavy. Later in the office, Ethan leaned against the desk. "You okay, babe?" She smiled faintly. "Just another day of people thinking I'm staff." He frowned. "You shouldn't have to deal with that here. In our place," she shrugged. "It's not about this place. It's everywhere. The board meetings, the supplier visits, even the charity events. They see my skin before they see my story." Ethan stepped closer. "Then we'll make sure they see it all. Loud and clear." She wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe the world could change if she just kept proving herself. But change didn't come easy. Weeks passed. Subtle things chipped away at her peace. Guests asked her for menus while she wore an owner's badge. Event planners emailed only Ethan, and one afternoon a socialite named Madison Hale dropped by to preview the space. Madison's words still echoed in her head. "Oh, how lovely. The staff is so diverse these days." The staff, Jordan, standing beside Aaliyah, had clenched his jaw. "She's not staff," he'd said sharply. "She's your host tonight, and co-owner of Maison Brook." Madison's smile had faltered, then recovered with a laugh. "Oh, well, how progressive of you both." Aaliyah had smiled politely then. But inside, something cracked. She told Ethan that night, "I can handle it." People like her, they don't know better. He looked at her for a long moment, and one day one of them is going to find out the hard way. His words turned out to be prophecy, because months later, on that charity night, Madison Hale wouldn't just mistake her again. She'd tear her dress apart in front of everyone, and Aaliyah would finally stop staying quiet. That night, as Aaliyah closed her laptop after reading the guest list for the charity event, she froze. Madison Hale's name was right at the top. If you've ever faced subtle discrimination that people called just a misunderstanding, tell me in the comments. Because sometimes silence isn't grace, it's pain. The night glowed golden. Crystal lights shimmered across the ceiling of Maison Brook. Violin strings filled the air with gentle music as laughter and glasses clinked softly. It was the charity gala of the year, a night meant to raise funds for children's hospitals. But for Aaliyah Brooks, it was also a test. She stood near the entrance, radiant in an emerald green gown that flowed like water, the same gown that would later be torn apart. Her smile was flawless, but her fingers fidgeted slightly at her side. Jordan noticed. "You okay, boss?" he murmured. Aaliyah inhaled. "I'm fine." She wasn't, because across the room, Madison Hale had just walked in. Draped in silver satin and diamonds, Madison floated in with her usual entourage. Loud laughter, louder perfume. She scanned the room like she owned it. And when her eyes landed on Aaliyah, a faint smirk curved her lips. "Look who's here," Madison whispered to her friend. "The pretty little waitress from last time," they giggled, sipping champagne. Aaliyah's jaw tightened, but she kept her head high. "Jordan," she said softly, "make sure everything runs smoothly tonight. No mistakes." "Yes, ma'am," he replied, already sensing the tension. Ethan approached from behind, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "She's not worth your peace," he said quietly. Aaliyah smiled up at him, but her voice trembled. "It's not about peace, Ethan. It's about respect. I've earned it. I shouldn't have to keep proving it." He nodded, eyes soft but firm. "Then tonight, you'll show them exactly who you are." Hours passed. Guests applauded speeches, bid on auction prizes, and toasted the cause. But Madison had other plans. She'd complained about her seat placement, about the menu, even about the temperature being too hot. Every complaint ended with a glance toward Aaliyah, as if testing her. When dessert was served, Madison snapped her fingers at a young waitress. "Get me another glass of wine. The good kind. And tell your manager I want to speak to the owner." The waitress hesitated. "Ma'am, that's Mrs. Brooks, the—" "Oh, please," Madison interrupted, rolling her eyes. "She's just here to look important." Aaliyah heard it. Everyone did. The hum of the room dimmed for a moment, but she didn't respond. She smiled politely and walked to the stage to thank the guests. Her voice was calm, graceful. "Tonight, your generosity helps us give children a better tomorrow." Polite applause followed. But Madison wasn't done. She stood up, tipsy, jealous, and reckless. "Beautiful speech, darling. You've got a real performer's touch. You sure you're not acting?" Laughter rippled through her table. A few guests looked away, uncomfortable. Ethan's hand balled into a fist under the table. Jordan took a step forward, whispering, "Boss, say the word—" "No," Aaliyah said quietly. "Let her dig her own hole." Later that night, as the last toast was made, Madison approached the couple. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble. "Well," she purred, "you two really outdid yourselves. You must be so proud of this little place." Aaliyah smiled faintly. "We are." Madison leaned closer. "I'll admit I didn't expect—" This. You've done well for yourself. Her tone dripped with surprise, the kind that wasn't a compliment. Aaliyah's expression didn't break. Thank you. We built it from the ground up, every inch of it. Madison sipped her champagne, then looked her up and down. Well, some people just get lucky, don't they? That was the last thing she said before everything spiraled, because the next moment, in front of everyone, Madison reached out and grabbed Aaliyah's dress. The silk tore. The laughter stopped. And the cameras turned. If you've ever seen someone humiliated in public for no reason and stayed quiet, what would you do different now? Tell me in the comments below. It happened in less than a second. A sound sharp enough to slice through music, chatter, and laughter alike. Rip! Every head turned. The entire ballroom froze mid-breath. Aaliyah stood still. The sleeve of her gown hung loose, shredded silk dangling from Madison Hale's clenched fingers. For a moment, nobody moved, not even Madison. Then came that voice, cold, sharp, mocking. Oh my, you people should really be more careful when serving drinks. A few gasps. Someone whispered, did she just say that? Aaliyah's chest tightened. The air felt heavier. She wasn't holding a tray. She wasn't even near one. She'd simply been standing there, beside her husband, talking to donors, when Madison had brushed past and grabbed her arm. Now Madison was laughing like it was all a misunderstanding. Relax, sweetheart, it's just a dress. Accidents happen. But the way she said sweetheart, laced with that ugly superiority, made Aaliyah's heart pound. The music faded. The silence stretched. Jordan dropped his tray, glass shattering behind him. Ma'am, you better back off, he hissed, stepping closer. Madison turned sharply. Excuse me? Who are you to... Ethan's voice cut through her words. Madison, it wasn't loud. But it was enough to still the room. She looked at him, eyes wide. Ethan, I didn't realize you were... He stepped forward slowly. Do you have any idea who you just touched? Madison's painted smile faltered. I was just... She's my wife, he said, his tone calm but deadly. And the co-owner of this restaurant. The words hit her like bullets. Cameras flashed. Guests murmured. The silence broke into sharp whispers. She tore her dress. She thought she was staff. Oh my God. Madison's face turned pale. I didn't know. Aaliyah finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear. You didn't ask. The crowd went still again. Her hand trembled slightly as she held the torn fabric. She could feel everyone's eyes, pity, shock, judgment, burning through her skin. Madison tried to laugh it off. Oh, please, it was just a misunderstanding. But Aaliyah didn't let her finish. No, it wasn't, she said, steady now. It's never just a misunderstanding when you decide who someone is before they even open their mouth. A hush fell. Ethan's hand found hers, firm, protective, silent strength. She could see the storm in his eyes, anger and heartbreak both. But she didn't want his anger to speak for her. Not tonight. She looked at Madison. You came into my place and humiliated me in front of my people. But the truth? You didn't tear my dress, Madison. You just revealed the threads of who you really are. Someone in the back started clapping. Then another. Then the whole room. Madison stood frozen, trapped under a spotlight of her own making. She muttered something and stormed out, heels clattering against the marble. But Aaliyah didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. Because humiliation leaves a mark, even when you stand tall. That night, back in her office, she stared at the torn fabric laid across her desk. Ethan leaned in the doorway, quiet. You did good, he said softly. She smiled faintly. It didn't feel good. He nodded. Sometimes truth doesn't. A notification pinged on Aaliyah's phone. A video. Uploaded anonymously. The tear. Someone had recorded the whole thing. If you were in Aaliyah's place that night, would you have stayed silent or spoken up? Tell me in the comments, and make sure to hit like so more people see stories that the world tries to ignore. By morning, the world knew Aaliyah woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing nonstop. Hundreds of notifications, missed calls, mentions, tags. Her heart pounded as she scrolled. The video, titled Rich Woman Tears Waitress's Dress, then gets exposed, had gone viral overnight. Over 2.3 million views, thousands of comments. This is disgusting. How can people still act like this in 2025? That woman handled it like a queen. Aaliyah's throat tightened as she watched the clip, her own trembling voice echoing back through the phone. You didn't tear my dress, Madison. You revealed who you really are. She'd said it to one woman. Now the whole country had heard it. Ethan walked into the kitchen, coffee in hand, expression calm but serious. It's everywhere, Lee. News outlets, Twitter, TikTok, everywhere. People are calling you the Black Grace under fire. She sat quietly. I didn't ask for this. I know, he said softly, setting the mug beside her. But sometimes the truth doesn't ask permission. By noon, reporters were outside Maison Brook. Camera flashes, microphones, voices shouting questions. Mrs. Brooks, did you plan this confrontation? How do you feel about Madison Hale being fired from the charity board? Do you plan to sue? Aaliyah stood still at the door. Jordan blocked some of the crowd, shouting, Back up, please! She's not giving statements. But Aaliyah spoke anyway. I didn't want revenge, she said. I wanted respect. What happened that night wasn't just about me. It's about every black woman who's ever been treated like she doesn't belong where she's already earned her place. Cameras clicked faster. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. And to the women who've been silent out of fear, you're not invisible. You're enough, the crowd quieted. For the first time, they listened. Inside, Ethan paced the office. This could get bigger, Lee. Sponsors are calling. The restaurant's bookings just tripled. And Madison's publicist wants to reach out privately. Aaliyah shook her head. She can keep her apology. I'm done giving people the benefit of the doubt. Jordan grinned. Guess karma doesn't need an invitation. Ethan chuckled quietly, but Aaliyah didn't smile. Her voice was low. I didn't want to be a headline. I just wanted a little dignity. He took her hand. You didn't lose it. You made the world see it. That night, she sat by her window scrolling through messages. One caught her eye. Mrs. Brooks, thank you. I was fired from my job after being called aggressive for standing up for myself. Seeing you speak up made me feel less alone. Tears welled up. For the first time in days, she let them fall, because it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been the help in their own story. The next morning, Ethan walked in holding a letter. His jaw was tight. Madison's suing us. If you've ever faced backlash for just telling the truth, let me know in the comments. Because sometimes, the price of honesty is heavier than the lie itself. Hit like if you're still with Aaliyah's story. Aaliyah stared at the papers in Ethan's hands. Defamation? She whispered, reading the first line. She's suing me for defamation? Ethan nodded grimly. She claims your comments damaged her reputation and emotional well-being. A bitter laugh escaped Aaliyah's lips. She tore my dress in front of hundreds of people. And now she's the victim? Jordan stormed in, eyes blazing. This is insane. Everyone saw the video. She humiliated you. The world saw it. Aaliyah sank into the chair, rubbing her temples. The world forgets fast, Jordan. One bad headline, one twisted quote, and suddenly the villain becomes the victim. Later that afternoon, the media circus roared back to life. Madison Hale, wrapped in designer black and fake tears, sat across from a reporter on live television. I've been harassed and bullied online, she sniffled. People forget I was the one assaulted first. I simply reacted in fear. Aaliyah's jaw dropped watching the clip. Assaulted? She grabbed me. Ethan muted the TV, his tone low. She's playing dirty. She wants sympathy. She knows people will eat up her version because it fits the old narrative. The fragile white woman versus the angry black woman. Aaliyah's chest tightened. And no matter what I say, that's the role I'm supposed to play in their story. He crouched down beside her. Then we'll tell our story louder. The next few days were a blur of lawyers, interviews, and headlines. Justice for Aaliyah trended online, but so did this Stand with Madison, death threats mixed with love messages. Reporters camped outside their gate. And every time she looked in the mirror, Aaliyah felt that same rip in her dress. Still open, still raw. At a meeting with their lawyer, she asked quietly, Can we fight this? The lawyer nodded. We can. You have witnesses, recordings, and the video. But it won't be easy. Madison's lawyers are aggressive. They'll dig into your past, your business, your reputation, everything. Aaliyah stared down at her hands. They'll try to make me small. Ethan leaned forward. Then we remind them who they're dealing with. That night, she sat on the couch scrolling through hate comments. She's just milking it for fame. She probably set it up. All this over a dress? Her hand trembled as she scrolled faster, until one comment stopped her cold. The way she stood there, calm, strong, and unshaken, that's what power looks like. Don't let them silence you. She exhaled slowly. For the first time that week, she smiled. The next morning, Ethan placed another letter in front of her. This one wasn't from Madison's lawyer. It was from the National Business Association for Women of Color. They wanted Aaliyah to be the keynote speaker at their national conference to share her story. Her story. Not Madison's, not anyone else's. She looked up at Ethan, eyes wide. They want me? He smiled. You earned it. But deep down, Aaliyah knew this wasn't just an invitation. It was the beginning of something much bigger. That evening, her phone buzzed again. A blocked number. A distorted voice. Drop the case, or we'll make sure Maison Brook burns with your name on it. If you think Aaliyah should keep fighting, type "stay strong" in the comments. Because when the truth threatens power, power always fights back. The voice on the phone was low, steady, and full of menace. Drop the case, or we'll make sure Maison Brook burns with your name on it. Then, click. Silence. Aaliyah sat frozen, phone still against her ear, pulse thundering. For the first time since that night, she felt something new. Not humiliation, not sadness, fear. Ethan walked in, immediately noticing her pale face. What happened? She handed him the phone. Voicemail. From a blocked number. He pressed play. The words filled the kitchen like poison. Ethan's jaw tightened, his knuckles turning white. That's a threat. Jordan barged in seconds later after Ethan texted him. We're calling the cops. Right now. But Aaliyah shook her head slowly. No police. Not yet. Ethan stared at her in disbelief. Aaliyah. They'll turn me into the story again, she whispered. The crying woman, the drama, the victim of online hate. No, I won't give them more headlines to twist. Ethan took her hand gently. Lee, this isn't about headlines. This is about safety. She met his eyes, steady, calm, determined. Then I'll fight smarter, not louder. That night, she barely slept. The shadows on the walls felt longer, the silence heavier. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps. Every buzz of her phone made her flinch. At 3 a.m., she sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. A voiceover narration begins softly, filled with pain and purpose. Sometimes standing tall doesn't feel brave. It feels lonely. Because when you speak the truth, you don't just expose injustice, you invite it to push back harder. Her phone lit up again. A text this time. Unknown. Last warning. Walk away. Her hands trembled, but her reply came fast. Aaliyah. I don't walk away from truth. The next morning, she met with her lawyer. We're moving forward, she said firmly. I'm not backing down. The lawyer hesitated. You sure? The threats are serious. We can request police protection. No, Aaliyah said. The best protection I have is the truth itself. Ethan nodded beside her. Then we fight. Together. That afternoon, Aaliyah posted a video. No makeup, no lights. Just her, sitting in her living room, looking straight into the camera. Her voice was steady. I didn't choose to become a symbol. I just stood up for myself. But if my story makes one woman, one person of color, feel seen, then it's worth it. She paused. I won't be intimidated. And to whoever thinks fear will silence me, I've lived through worse than your threats. Within minutes, the video exploded online. Millions of views, tens of thousands of supportive comments. We stand with you. You're not alone. Sis? This is what courage looks like. Aaliyah exhaled, finally feeling something she hadn't in weeks. Peace. But as she turned off her phone, Ethan was staring at an email that had just arrived. His face went pale. He turned the screen toward her, a photo of their restaurant's front door, a red X spray-painted across it. Aaliyah's voice trembled, but her eyes hardened. They want to scare me, Ethan, but I think they just woke up the wrong woman. If you believe Aaliyah should fight back no matter what, comment "keep going" below. Because sometimes courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move through it. It started with smoke, thin black trails curling into the night sky. By the time Aaliyah and Ethan arrived, the flashing red lights had already turned their dream into a nightmare. Mason Brook, their pride, their symbol of hard work and equality, stood covered in ash and soot. Fire trucks lined the street. Water pooled across the pavement. The smell of burned wood and melted fabric filled the air. Aaliyah stepped out of the car slowly, her heels crunching on glass. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "No, no, no!" Ethan grabbed her arm gently. "Stay back, Lee. They said it's not safe." But she pulled away, stumbling forward. "This was our home, Ethan. This was everything we built." The chief firefighter approached, helmet under his arm. The fire started in the kitchen area. "No one was inside, thankfully." Aaliyah's voice cracked. Was it an accident?" The chief hesitated. His silence said enough. "We found traces of accelerant," he admitted. "This wasn't an accident, Mrs. Brooks." Her knees almost buckled. Ethan caught her before she fell. Jordan rushed toward them, covered in soot, eyes bloodshot. "They did this," he rasped. "I closed early like you said. And when I came back to grab my bag, flames were everywhere. I barely made it out." Aaliyah's heart sank. "You could have died." He shook his head fiercely. "I'm fine. But we can't let them win." She turned toward the smoking building, the gold Mason Brook sign barely hanging. Half burned, half flickering, her narration voice came in, low, heartbreak laced with fury. "They thought fire would silence me. That destruction would erase my worth. But I realized something. They didn't burn down a restaurant. They lit a spark that's never going out. Reporters arrived within minutes. Flashing cameras. Shouting voices. Mrs. Brooks, is this connected to the lawsuit? Do you think it's a hate crime? What's your message to whoever did this?" Aaliyah wiped a tear and looked directly into one of the cameras. Her tone was calm, but her eyes unshakable. "My message?" she said quietly. "You burned wood and metal, but you can't burn truth. You can't burn resilience. You can't burn me." The clip went viral before dawn. "They can't burn us" trended worldwide. Messages poured in from across the globe. A woman from Chicago wrote, "My grandmother fought the same hate 40 years ago. I'm proud of you for not running." Another from South Africa. "You turned their fire into light." But not everyone celebrated. Madison's lawyer issued a statement the next morning, accusing Aaliyah of staging the fire for attention. The words hit harder than smoke. Ethan slammed his phone down. "They're trying to destroy your credibility, Lee. Again." She looked at him, calm, almost cold now. "Then we stopped letting them write my story for me." Later that day, she stood outside the blackened restaurant with Jordan and Ethan. The wind blew through the broken windows. Aaliyah whispered, "This place may be gone." "But we're not." Ethan put an arm around her shoulders. "So what now?" She turned to him, eyes steady, voice unshaken. "Now, we rebuild. But this time, not just the restaurant." That night, Aaliyah received an anonymous package at her doorstep. Inside, a charred piece of her green gown. And a note that read, "You should have stayed quiet. If this part hit you hard, type 'stand with her' in the comments. Because silence is what keeps injustice alive. And Aaliyah is done being silent." Morning light crept through the curtains, but Aaliyah hadn't slept. The note lay on the table beside her. That cruel message burned deeper than the fire ever could. You should have stayed quiet. Her mind replayed every moment. The ripped gown, the humiliation, the threats, the fire. She whispered to herself, "Quiet is how they win." Ethan walked in with coffee. He saw the sleepless eyes, the clenched fists. "You're thinking of fighting back, aren't you?" She looked up slowly. "No, Ethan, I'm done fighting in the dark. She grabbed her phone, scrolled to her emails, and pressed send. 2 days later, the TV studio buzzed with tension. Cameras were being tested. Producers shouted directions, and behind the scenes, Aaliyah adjusted her earpiece with trembling hands. The show's topic: racism in the hospitality industry, the Maison Brooks scandal. Across from her sat Madison Carter, flawless in her white suit, fake smile perfectly practiced. She looked at Aaliyah like she was beneath her. "I didn't think you'd show," she said under her breath. Aaliyah met her gaze, calm but steady. "I don't run, Madison. You should know that by now," the host signaled. "Cameras rolled. Welcome back to Morning Talk Live. Today we have two women at the center of a viral controversy." The questions began soft, then sharp. The host turned to Madison. "You've been accused of racially motivated harassment at Maison Brooks. What do you say to those claims?" Madison's tone dripped sugar. "It's absurd. I simply asked for better service. I didn't know the waitress was—" She caught herself. Too late. Aaliyah's eyes narrowed. "Was what, Madison?" Madison hesitated. "Was the owner." Aaliyah leaned forward, voice calm but heavy with truth. "You didn't ask for better service, and you tore my dress. You called me a liar in front of my own guests. And when that wasn't enough, your people tried to scare me into silence." The host blinked. "Are you saying Madison Carter or her associates are behind the fire at Maison Brooks?" Ethan, watching from the control room, held his breath. Aaliyah didn't flinch. "I'm saying hate always finds a way to cover itself in class. But no matter how much perfume you spray on it, the stench of racism never hides." The studio went silent. Even Madison's smile faltered. The clip hit social media within hours. People around the country watched as Aaliyah dismantled Madison, calmly, gracefully, but powerfully. Aaliyah speaks. Maison Brooks. Truth over fear. Every tag trended, but by nightfall, her lawyer called with a warning. "They're retaliating." Madison's lawyers filed a defamation suit. "They're coming for you." Aaliyah stared at the city skyline, lights flickering like stars. "They already took my piece," she said softly. "They won't take my voice." That night, Ethan held her close. "Whatever happens next, I'm with you. You hear me?" She smiled faintly. "I know," then whispered, "but I think the real war's about to begin." The next morning, Aaliyah opened her email. Inside was a single message from an anonymous sender, a video attachment. She pressed play. It showed a masked figure pouring gasoline outside Maison Brooks before the fire. And in the background, Madison's car. Aaliyah's hands trembled as the video played again. Frame by frame, a dark figure, the outline of a gas can, the faint glow of fire spreading. But what froze her wasn't the flames. It was the reflection. In a puddle near the car's tire, a clear glimpse of Madison's license plate. Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. "That's her car." "It's her." Aaliyah nodded, jaw clenched. "We have proof." For the first time since the nightmare began, she didn't feel powerless. She felt ready. By noon, they were sitting in their lawyer's office. Her attorney leaned forward, watching the video 3 times before exhaling. "This changes everything. But we can't just post it. We need to play it smart. If we leak it wrong, they'll claim it's edited." Ethan frowned. "So what do? We go legal. We take it to the police, the press, together. And this time, Madison can't hide behind her money." Aaliyah's voice was steady. "Let's do it." Later that day, she walked into the downtown precinct. The same officers who once brushed off her first complaint now stood straighter when she arrived with her attorney and a USB drive in hand. The detective in charge inserted the drive and pressed play. When Madison's car appeared on the screen, his expression shifted instantly. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "Anonymous email," Aaliyah said. "But it's real. Check the timestamp. It matches the night of the fire." He nodded grimly. "We'll verify it. But if this holds up?" He looked up at her. "We're talking felony arson, maybe hate crime charges." Aaliyah swallowed hard. "So it's finally happening." Hours later, as they left the station, the press was already waiting outside. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones swarmed. Aaliyah stopped, composed, her voice calm and clear. I didn't start this fight. I was forced into it. But now I have proof, and I won't stop until there's justice. Not just for me, but for every person who's ever been silenced by privilege and power. The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. The video hit every major outlet within the hour: CNN, NBC. Social feeds flooded with clips of her speech. Justice for Aaliyah trended worldwide. At home that night, Ethan scrolled through the messages, floods of love, support, unity. But then one message stood out, anonymous. You think it's over? Check tomorrow's news. He showed her the phone. Lee, what if? She shook her head. No more fear, Ethan. Not tonight. Tonight we rest. Tomorrow we fight again. The next morning, Madison's arrest made national headlines. Prominent socialite charged in racist arson attack on black business owner. TV anchors called it a landmark case for racial justice in business. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse, holding signs that read, "They tried to burn her. Now she burns brighter." Aaliyah watched the news in silence, tears in her eyes. Ethan kissed her forehead. You did it, Lee. She shook her head gently. We did it. As she turned off the TV, another message came in, from the same unknown email. It read, You got Madison. But she wasn't working alone. If this twist shocked you, comment "keep going" below, because what comes next will prove that sometimes the truth goes deeper and darker than anyone imagined. Aaliyah stared at the screen. She wasn't working alone. The words pulsed in her mind like a heartbeat she couldn't silence. Ethan leaned over her shoulder. You think it's just another threat? But she shook her head. No, whoever's been sending these messages, they know too much. She clicked reply. Aaliyah. Who are you? What do you know? No response. 2 days later, the police confirmed Madison's confession, or so they thought. She admitted to being at the scene but denied setting the fire. She said she was ordered to scare you, the detective told Aaliyah, flipping through his notes. Ordered? Aaliyah repeated, eyes narrowing. By who? The detective sighed. She refused to name names, said, and I quote, some doors you don't open unless you want to disappear. A chill ran down Aaliyah's spine. That night, her phone buzzed again. Anonymous. Meet me tomorrow, 10 p.m. Riverside parking lot. Come alone if you want the truth. Ethan tried to stop her. Lee, no. This could be dangerous. You're not going. But her voice was calm. Too calm. They've already tried to destroy me, Ethan. I'm not living in fear anymore. 10:03 p.m. The Riverside lot was empty except for a lone figure standing near the edge. Hoodie pulled up, hands in pockets. Aaliyah approached cautiously. Who are you? The figure looked up. It was Trent Lewis, the assistant restaurant manager she'd fired months ago after catching him stealing tips. Her jaw dropped. You? He looked broken, desperate. I didn't want to be part of it, Aaliyah, I swear. But Madison wasn't the one calling the shots. Then who was? He looked around nervously. It came from higher up, the investors. One of them wanted you out. Said a black woman fronting a luxury brand would ruin the image. Aaliyah felt her chest tighten. You're lying. I'm not. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket. This is the contract. Madison was just the face, the real money. It came from within Aaliyah Brooks' board. Her voice shook. You're saying someone from my own company funded this? He nodded slowly. Someone you trusted. Before she could respond, headlights flared. A black SUV screeched into the lot. Trent froze. Oh, God, they found me. A gunshot cracked the night. Trent dropped. Aaliyah screamed. The SUV sped off before she could see the plates. She dropped beside him, shaking. Trent, stay with me. Who was it? Blood trickled down his lip as he whispered one name, barely audible. Then his body went still. Aaliyah sat in the cold silence, his final word echoing in her mind. Jordan, her own manager, her best friend. Her narration fades in, trembling but fierce. Sometimes, the knife doesn't come from your enemies. It comes from the hand you thought would catch you if you fell. She looked at the camera, eyes burning. If you're still with me, comment "Truth Hurts" below, because what I just learned will change everything. The name echoed in her mind like thunder. Jordan, her friend, her brother in all but blood. The man who stood beside her through every protest, every tear, every threat. Aaliyah's heart felt like it was cracking open. No, he wouldn't. But she couldn't ignore Trent's final word. The next morning, Ethan found her sitting in silence at the kitchen table. The coffee had gone cold. Her eyes were red but dry. He crouched beside her. "You didn't sleep." She shook her head. "Trent's dead, Ethan. Shot. And before he died, he said it was Jordan." Ethan froze. "Jordan?" "I don't want to believe it either," she whispered. "But he was the only one who had access to everything. The contracts, the investors. The night of the fire, he was the last one to leave." Her voice trembled. "What if it's true?" Ethan took her hand gently. "Then you face it. You always have." Aaliyah didn't call the cops. Not yet. She wanted answers, not arrests. Not until she knew why. That afternoon, she texted Jordan. "Aaliyah, we need to talk." "My place." 7. Jordan, "You okay?" Aaliyah, "No, but I will be after this." 7:14 p.m. Jordan walked in, looking uneasy. "Lee, what's this about? You sound off." Aaliyah didn't waste time. She slid a photo across the table, a still from the surveillance footage. The masked figure, the outline, the reflection of his car this time. His breath caught. "Where did you get that?" "Don't lie to me, Jordan," she said quietly. "Trent told me before he died." He froze, every muscle in his jaw tightening. "He's dead?" "Yes." And his last word was your name. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then Jordan exhaled. Slow, tired. "I didn't mean for it to go that far, Lee." Aaliyah's heart shattered. "You did do it?" He nodded, eyes glistening. "Not the fire. That was Madison's crew. But the deal, the investors, that was me. They promised me partnership, said they'd expand the brand if you stepped down, said the restaurant would thrive under new management." She backed away, voice breaking. "You sold me out for money?" Jordan's tears fell. "I was scared, Lee. They said you were sinking the business. Said people wouldn't support a black woman leading a luxury dining chain. I thought—" She cut him off, voice sharp as glass. "You thought wrong." He reached for her, desperate. "I didn't think they'd hurt you, I swear. When I saw the fire, I wanted to confess, but I couldn't." Aaliyah stepped back. "You watched me lose everything. You saw the hate, the threats, and you said nothing." Jordan sank to his knees. "I'm sorry." Her eyes were cold now. "Sorry doesn't rebuild what you burned." Ethan entered, voice steady. "Get out, Jordan, before I make the call myself." Jordan looked up, broken. "Lee, please." She turned away. "You already made your choice." He left without another word. Later that night, Aaliyah sat alone, her voice trembling in narration. "They say betrayal only hurts when it comes from someone you love. They're right, because fire burns flesh, but betrayal burns the soul." She looked out the window, city lights glimmering like false promises. But maybe pain isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning of strength. Her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "You don't know the full story yet. Check the news tomorrow." If this chapter broke your heart, comment "She deserves justice" below. because the truth isn't done unfolding. Not yet. The morning news hit like an earthquake. Ethan's shout brought Aaliyah running to the living room. "Lee, you need to see this." The anchor's voice was calm, but the headline burned across the screen. "Restaurant investor arrested in racist arson conspiracy. New evidence confirms inside collusion." Aaliyah froze. The image on the screen was unmistakable. The investor, Richard Hale, one of Maison Brooks' earliest backers. A man she once trusted. A man Jordan had introduced to her himself. The reporter continued. Investigators uncovered financial transfers between Madison Carter, Trent Lewis, and Richard Hale. Authorities confirm it was Hale who orchestrated the plan to remove Aaliyah Brooks as the owner, believing her image didn't align with the brand's elite clientele. Aaliyah's hands trembled, but not from fear. From release. Her whisper cut the silence. It wasn't just hate, it was power. Power dressed as class. By noon, the footage of Madison's arrest was everywhere. Cameras caught her crying, shouting that she was set up. But this time, the world didn't believe her. For once, they believed Aaliyah. That afternoon, Aaliyah walked into the courthouse in a navy suit. Confident, calm, unbreakable. Reporters swarmed her. "Mrs. Brooks, do you have any comment?" She stopped, faced the cameras, and spoke. "This isn't just my victory. It's for every woman who's been told to stay silent. For every person of color told they don't belong in luxury, in leadership, in success. I built Maison Brooks to serve food, but also dignity. And today, I'm serving justice." The crowd erupted in applause. When she took the stand, her voice was steady, her truth sharp as glass. She recounted everything. The insult, the dress, the fire, the betrayal. And when she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Even the judge paused before speaking. "Mrs. Brooks, this court thanks you for your courage." Madison was sentenced to prison for conspiracy and arson. Richard Hale faced multiple charges for hate crimes and fraud, and Jordan, broken, remorseful, testified against them. Before leaving the courtroom, he whispered to her, "I don't deserve forgiveness, but thank you for showing me what strength looks like." She didn't respond. She just nodded, calm, composed. 6 months later, a brand new sign gleamed above the door. Maison Brooks Reborn. Crowds gathered for the reopening. Laughter, music, joy. The air was alive again. Aaliyah stepped onto the small stage. Ethan stood beside her, proud. Her speech was simple. "They burned our building, not our spirit. They tried to silence me, but all they did was give me a louder voice. To anyone watching who's been broken, betrayed, or belittled, don't let hate define your story. Rewrite it." Applause thundered through the courtyard. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered to Ethan, "We did it." He smiled. "No, you did it." Later that night, she sat by the window of her office, watching the lights reflect on the glass. Her reflection stared back. Not the girl who was humiliated, but the woman who refused to stay silent. Her voiceover ended the story softly, powerfully. Justice doesn't erase pain, but it turns it into purpose. And purpose, that's how you win. If you believe Aaliyah's story is more than just fiction, it's a reflection of reality, type "justice wins" in the comments. What would you have done in her place? Let's talk about it below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories that remind us, hate burns, but courage rebuilds.